Hey friends, welcome to episode 3 of our mini series, One Element to Rule Them All: How Water Creates, Contains, and Embodies Every Other Element. If you think that water is just one of the elements, keep watching. Today, water's element is fire. You might think that water and fire are opposite elements, but actually, water is the source of fire. Now, the sun rules the fire element, right? You could say that fire comes from the sun. There would be no fire on Earth if it were not for the sun. And the sun was born, at least according to mainstream cosmology, inside a giant star nursery filled with water called the Orion Cloud Nebula, which contains enough water to fill the Earth's oceans 10 million times. Water is the mother and the midwife of the sun, intricately involved in the birth of the sun and of all stars. The sun itself contains tons of water in the form of superionic or amorphous ice. The sun is what creates and sustains fire here on Earth. And here's the thing, even the sun is not fire. Fire is the result of a chemical reaction that requires oxygen. And there's no oxygen in the vacuum of space, and not much in the sun itself. If the sun was literally made of fire, or if the material that it was made of were burning, like wood or coal, it would burn out instantly because it would very rapidly run out of the oxygen that it would need to sustain that chemical reaction. Nuclear fusion, on the other hand, just involves fusing two hydrogen atoms and releasing an enormous amount of energy in the process, some of which reaches us in the form of light and heat. Some say it's hydrogen plasma, others say it's liquid metallic hydrogen. But Dr. Yul Brown, the inventor of the Brown's gas machine, after studying the sun and hydrogen for decades, he finally said the sun is water. Now, you would have to dive deep into his research or join my Spirit of Water course for more on that. It's too nuanced to fit here, but suffice it to say, even according to mainstream cosmology, whatever that's worth, the sun is 92% hydrogen. The creative force of water itself. A quick caveat, again, all of this about the vacuum of space and the distant sun is just according to modern cosmological paradigm, which I consider to be an interesting mythos and relevant because it informs the world that we live in, but I don't buy anything that comes from space agencies. I don't think it's worth the paper that it's written on. Nevertheless, our modern world is built on those theories, so I think it's important to talk about them. Moving on, now we know for a fact that the sun takes no effect on any biological being whatsoever on Earth, except through the phase changes of water. Both the sun's light and its heat are all translated into biological frequencies and biological action that keep each ecosystem alive only through water. In other words, the sun only has effects on Earth, on any climate or any ecology or any body via the way that the sun affects water. We tend to think that the sun is this hot ball of flame, and most people assume that anything brought near the sun would instantly register extreme heat and burn up and catch fire. But heat isn't a substance that's floating around. It's a transfer. And that transfer only happens when something can absorb and conduct the energy. And water happens to be the most receptive and conductive medium in existence, right? It's an empty space. There's no air. There's no molecules. There's no medium or convection at all. But that's what translates radiation into the sensation that we call heat, is when it registers with our biowater. So in a very real sense, the sun isn't hot on its own, but water makes it so. And even that light is useless without the water that translates that pure photonic information into actual biological meaning and action. Not only did water create fire in the form of the sun in the Orion Cloud Complex, but water also contains fire, which is what? Is light, heat, and electromagnetism. Water maps and remembers and retains all of the signatures and frequencies of light and heat and electromagnetism that it's ever been exposed to. Dolph Zantiga said, light is bundle of information that has to be brought in by the right water, and different kinds of water interact with light and heat very differently. Each type of water has its own fingerprint. It's called an aquagram that determines what kind of light it can receive and contain and transmit. Water that doesn't have enough of a spectrum of light and electromagnetism is considered juvenile water, and it's nowhere near as therapeutic or hydrating to drink. So the healthiest water has to contain the fire element through some interaction with light and electromagnetism. Not only does water create and contain fire, but water embodies the fire element when it's in its plasma phase. The plasma phase of water can even create something called a laser or a fluid laser, which is basically explosive heat rather than the explosive heat that we're accustomed to. You can actually put your hands right around a fluid laser made entirely of water, and not feel any warmth. But if you focus that beam on a piece of concrete, for example, it's hot enough to immediately pierce and burn straight through it. The plasma phase of water can even create a sun right here on Earth. Jonathan Butts was able to generate a sun very briefly in the laboratory for a few seconds. It was a very small sun. He was condensing water plasma and shorting it to a bath of water, which heated up to about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. He said that you could actually see the plasma breathing right before the sun formed. Water isn't one of the elements. Water is the queen of all elements and of all creation. Even the sun was born inside of water. As Thales of Miletus said, water is all. As Krishna said, water is the ground of all being. In the mantra Pushpam, which is an ancient Vedic scripture, it says, water is the source of fire. One who knows this becomes established in himself. And then it goes on to say, water is the source of scorching sun. He who knows this will become established in himself. Water runs this shit. You understand water, and you understand everything. Till the next episode, be well and be water, my